What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio. This is Stat Diggers for UFC Vegas 76. And yeah, we have a 12-fight card, a card where lots of new fights that happened within the last couple of days, lots of new fighters making their debut. We're back in the Apex. I'm hoping it's a good card. Last week, I hyped up UFC Jacksonville all week, said it was fire from top to bottom. That really wasn't the case. So maybe I'll say this card sucks and hopefully it delivers. So this card sucks and we'll see what happens. But I'm here with Weezy. Weezy, what is up? Are you looking forward to Vegas 76?
Yeah, this card doesn't suck, man. It's a fun card. You know, it was like last week's card was supposed to be fun, but the matchmakers did a great job last week. It's just that the fights necessarily didn't turn out like we thought they might. You know, a lot of those really juiced unders did not come through. So very interesting week of fights there. But yeah, you know, I'm looking at this card. We got 12 fights on this card, and there's some interesting names. And 4 of these fights, 4 of the 12 are new in the last 48 hours or so. So we've kind of had to dig a little bit deeper than normal. But I did update all the stats, so we're ready to rock for the show today and trying to find ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks because we need a little bit of a comeback after last night.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like a complete disaster last night, but I mean, I was only down like a unit point 86. You were only down like 2 units. I mean, it could have been much worse. Like my biggest bet of the night, listen to this. My biggest bet of the night was a 2-leg violence parlay, Weezy. The Brundage Dumas under 2.5, the Peak Mariscal under 2.5. I couldn't believe it. I knew it wasn't hitting it though. In the first 10 seconds in the Brundage fight, he pulled Gilly, and then he did it a second and the third. I thought Dumas was going to finish Brundage there. Remember when Dumas took Brundage's back, and there was like that weird sequence for literally like 3 minutes where Brundage was just holding on to Dumas's hand, and Dumas was just sitting there on top of him. So that fight didn't finish, and then the Peak fight didn't finish either, which was weird. So the Peak fight didn't finish, the Brundage fight didn't finish, the Topuria fight didn't finish, and then the top fight didn't finish because it got a no contest. But I did have some solid bets. I had the Onama Santos fight doesn't go, 1.5 units minus 145. I had that Brendan Allen Silva under 2.5 minus 180. I had a bet that hit that I didn't think cashed, to be honest. So I had the Jack Jenkins points handicap plus 3.5, the point spread there. I thought Emmers won 30-27, like 29-28, worst case scenario. And then all of a sudden, Jack Jenkins won the fight. I'm like, what? Like, I was shocked. I was like, what is going on? But yeah, so that hit at least the points handicap. And then I just lost a lot of small sprinkles. I had Topuria wins round 2, round 3, which he almost did in round 2. I had some sprinkles on the Zalga submission. He didn't even attempt to wrestle for some reason. Terrible haircut, terrible game plan. And then I had some sprinkles on like Magny late subs, which weren't even close. So overall, down 1.86 units. Could have been a lot worse. What hurt me the most, honestly, was that Tafa under being like a no contest. I was really confident in that Austin Lane Tafa under. If that would have hit, it would have been like less than a unit of loss for last week. So not the worst card in the world. I mean, I had a monster card before that. I gave a little bit back, but hoping to get back in the win column for Vegas 76. Weezy, how did your night go?
Yeah, it was one of those nights, man. I mean, it started off god awful. I lost money on the Trevor Peak money line, 1.1 units. That was Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week this week, and it just did not work out. He landed some good shots. It was a fun fight, but Mariscal on short notice up a weight class really came to fight and looked really good. So, you know, big ups to Chepe Mariscal, local product here from Chicago. Yeah, he looked good, man, and it surprised me. I had also a money line bet on Jillian Robertson. Thought that was a close fight, you know, but I would have scored it for Ricci as well. So, you know, big ups to Tabitha Ricci. She got the job done. I was expecting Robertson to wrestle more. It was just weird. She seemed happy to strike. I've never seen her happy to strike in her entire UFC career. So, and then I had what was really close for me, Brady, the under 2.5 rounds in the Ismagulov Van fight at plus 160. In the second round, Van came really close to finishing Ismagulov, and it looked like the referee was going to step in and stop the fight, but it did not happen. I also lost 1 unit on the Magny Rowe fight doesn't go to decision. And then I lost a 1/4 unit on Trevor Peek to win by knockout in round 2. I lost a 1/10 of a unit on Neil Magny to win by submission in round 3. So at that point, I was down 4.35 units. And like the Alan Silva fight was about to start. And basically, I had preheated the oven. I took a piece of printer paper. I wrote "no funeral" on it, and I taped it to my back. And I was going to go put my head in the oven and just let my girlfriend find me like that, dead from the gas inhalation. And then I heard like from the other room that sounded like the Allen fight was like, turning into a barn burner. I had the under 1.5 there at plus 126. So that hit. And I also had the Macy Barber finish only prop for 1 unit at plus 110. That hit. So like I went from being down like 4.45 units and almost killing myself in my own oven to being down 2.09 units. So it was good to hit those last 2 bets of the night. And man, if that Ismagulov fight would have been stopped, it would have been an up night for me. So I didn't really hate any of the bets that I made. I didn't overpay for any of those unders, which were juiced to the tits, but I found other ways to lose. So, on to the next, Brady. It wasn't a horrible night. It could have been much, much worse for me.
Yeah, my worst bet was not betting SD Dumas at plus 185. I don't know why I didn't. I mean, that was terrible betting IQ for me, but it is what it is. I just need to learn how to pull the trigger on some of these big dogs. Like that line, even pre-fight made no sense. So we'll see what happens going forward. All right. I do want to shout out the chat before we get started here. Let me scroll up. We got Mushroom, first one in the building. What is up, Mushroom? We got Rob in the chat. We got Victor in the chat. Andrew Subhuman. We got Sean in the chat. What is up? We have The Small World. We got Taylor in the chat as well. We got Kill Up Boy. We got Rick the Ruler KC. We got Preston in the chat. We got 916 Dave. What is up, everybody? Bets Profit. Mr. D. What is up, everybody? All right, Weezy, I say we get right into it then.
Let's go, man. This is an interesting card. Can't wait to break it down.
Let's do it. We got Propaholic in the building as well. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff, guys. We go live every Sunday breaking down the card for next week. We're going to kick it off with Guram Kudetadze going against Elvis Brenner. We got Kudetadze, 31 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. Brenner, 25 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. We have Brenner 6 years younger. Kudetadze with a 1-inch height advantage, same reach there. Kudetadze, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Mateus Gamrot. He won that fight by decision, and then he lost a decision to Damir Ismagulov. As far as Elvis Brenner, he made his debut against Zybara Tuhugov, and he won that fight by decision. Is a really big dog there. So Elvis Brenner, he trains with Charles Oliveira in them at Shoot the Box Diego Lima. He went in there against Tuhugov, went back and watched that fight. He looked better than I expected. He went on the feet, but it was like a weird performance from Tuhugov. It looked like Tuhugov just didn't want to be there. And, sometimes we see fighters just show up and just literally not want to be there at all. And that was just one of those performances where Tuhugov literally just did nothing, and Brunno was able to do just enough to win the fight. This is a much, much, much tougher matchup here. We have Kudetadze, who is, I think, the second biggest favorite on the card. And the line is moving in his favor heavily as we speak. Parlay money's coming in on Guram. He's going to be a very popular parlay piece. I even thought about parlaying him. I didn't, and the line moved a lot since I even thought about it. So I won't be touching this fight, but I think Kudetadze styles on Brenner. I think he has the takedown defense to keep it upright, and on the feet, it's not even close. I see why money's pouring in on the guy. So give me Kudetadze to win this fight. Not sure if he finishes them, though. I mean, Brenner has 3 losses, all 3 of those coming by decision. Seems like a pretty tough guy. He went to decision with Gabriel Santos, who's a pretty solid finisher. So I'm going to say Kudetadze by decision, but, I mean, there's not really a way I see it at attack in this fight, especially since this line's moved so much that it's not even parlayable at this point. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, the last time Kudetadze was supposed to fight, I had a bet on the over in the Malarkey fight because they were hanging a big plus money number on it here, and I don't see any reason not to try it again this time. Brenner's never been finished, and he's been in there with some pretty good guys. But yeah, dude, that Tuhugov fight was very interesting because Tuhugov is a featherweight. And then like he showed up on fight week and he couldn't even he was like, this has got to be a lightweight fight. And then he missed lightweight by like 2.5 pounds, Brady. I mean, so I had heard stories from this guy, from people saying that like Tuhugov his head wasn't in it. The dude's kind of like a partier, and he's really kind of like more interested in being seen out than he is being seen in the gym. So, I don't know what to take from the Brenner win over Tuhugov. We can't overrate from that win because it's really important not just to watch the fighter that you're taping, but also, see what his opponent had for him that day. And I think anybody with a pulse would have beaten Tuhugov on that day. He didn't do jack shit in there. So, and then you look at Kutateladze. The guy's going hammer and tongs with Gamrot and Ismagulov, who are just on a completely different level than the guys that Brenner has fought in the past. And then what you see on tape is a really crisp, powerful kickboxer in Kutateladze, who's an excellent grappler. He can use it in reverse, just keep the fight standing if that's where he wants to be, or he can actually mix it in and use it to win minutes on his own. Dude's training with Hamzat a lot of the time. He's huge for the weight class. The only problem with Garam is he can't stay healthy and he can't get to the cage nearly enough. So he got this short notice opportunity after the Malarkey fight. He was supposed to fight Malarkey, but he couldn't get a visa, I guess. So evidently he's healthy. He's ready to go. And yeah, if he's healthy, Brady, he probably styles on Elvis Brenner and makes it look fairly easy. But the line is such that it makes it really difficult to do anything but bet the underdog here. And I don't think I'm going to get there.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a tough matchup. I mean, like you said, going to a very, very close fight with Damir Ismagulov, going to a very, very close fight with Mateusz Gamrot. It's just a ginormous step down in competition to a guy like Elvis Brenner, who is still young. He could still make a ton of improvements going forward, but I think at this point in time, Kutateladze just at like a whole other level better than Brenner. So yeah, it's got to be Kutateladze. It's a pass fight for me. as we broke down the fight, Weezy, Kutateladze went from minus 550 to minus 600 now.
Already, yeah. Yeah, you got to love it. So, I mean, like at this point, you might say, well, Elvis Brenner's only 25 years old. He's the younger guy. He's been a lot more active. He's got 17 fights in 7 years as a pro, while Kutateladze's got 15 fights in 13 years as a pro. So maybe you say, I'm going with the younger guy who's been more active. But yeah, it's hard to get there because Garam is the real deal. The guy really doesn't have any weak spots in his game. He's well tested. He's well rounded. He hits hard. Yeah, man, I'm probably just going to be staying away from the window on this fight. Unless, what is the over on this one? We got an over 2.5 at plus 130. I don't know, man. It's just that's another stay. That's another stay away, I think.
Yeah, sweat because Kutateladze is going to be playing patty cake with his face for a while on the feet. So.
Yeah, and he's got those big body kicks too, man. I mean, he can just turn you off with one of those.
I don't really have a lean towards the over or under, to be honest. I mean, I could see him finishing him, or maybe Brenner is so tough that it does go the distance. So it's kind of tough from that aspect.
Yeah, and Brenner's never been finished, so maybe that's another spot we look at the over. But I think I'd like a little more plus money than plus 130.
Yep, should be an interesting fight. Probably doesn't even happen though. We'll have to see. But Kutateladze, this guy never fights.
Get in there, Garam. Come on, man, get in there. We want to see you fight more often.
We do. We want to see you fight. And this match makes no sense. And when I saw he was fighting Elvis Brenner, I was like, "What the heck is going?" You couldn't find anybody else.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. Kutateladze was supposed to fight Malarkey. He couldn't get the visa, and then Brenner's opponent dropped out. So Garam was like, I'm ready, and they'll give me a visa this week. So he's probably just trying to get in there. I mean, if he's healthy, he's usually got very small windows of time where he's healthy. So he's probably throwing his hat in the ring for anything that's 145 or 155 right now.
Should be an interesting fight. And by the way, the bout order is not set yet. I think the UFC stats is just, they're waiting a little bit to update the order, right?
Yeah. This is the tapology order I think that we're going to today because UFC stats doesn't even have two of these listed on there. So we'll update the spreadsheet as we get more news, but we'll just go through it this way right now.
Yeah, and I agree with Jared here. He's saying, "Come on, come on." I agree with that. All right, we'll move on to this next fight. A disgusting fight. We have Alexander Romanov going against Blagoy Ivanov. We have Romanov, 32 years old, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. Ivanov, 36 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. Romanov is going to be 4 years younger. He's going to have a 3-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Romanov, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Juan Espino. Knockout win against Jared Vandera, submission win against Shea Sherman, decision loss against Marcin Tybura, a knockout loss against Alexander Volkov. Ivanov, he is 2 and 3 in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Tai Tuivasa, decision loss against Derek Lewis and Augusto Sakai, and a decision win against Marcos Rogério de Lima, and then a decision loss to Marcin Tybura. So, my worst bet of the year was on Alexander Romanov. I think I got him at like minus 122. Luckily I had the under as well, but I was not able to watch the fight. I was moving into my new house. We had no internet, so I was not able to watch the fight. I went back and watched the fight for the first time today, and I was disgusted. I was disgusted. Oh my gosh. Romanov, first of all, he came in there. It looked in terrible shape. And I made the bet like on Sunday, and he waited on Friday. And I'm like, oh no. Oh no. I mean, he looked awful. It looked like he didn't train. Apparently, he didn't train for the fight. So he showed up at weigh-ins, looked like complete crap. I felt terrible about my bet. I didn't want to cash out or nothing like that. I bet the under to hedge because I didn't think this guy was going 15 minutes, right? And then he shows up on fight day, looks terrible. He goes in there. He tries to take down Volkov. He almost does. He almost takes Volkov down. Volkov grabs the cage to stop the takedown. I think it's Mark Smith did nothing about it though. And then they go at space. They go at range. And then Romanov's mouth is wide open. He's completely gassed out. I looked at the clock, Weezy, and it was like 4 minutes and 3 seconds left in the first round. It was the worst display of cardio I've ever seen in my life. It was worse than Rodolfo Vieira against Fluffy. He went out there and won at least half the first round. But no, I looked at the clock, and Romanov was gassed out with still 4 minutes left in the first round. Just a terrible, terrible fight. Volkov finishes him after. I mean, this fight's so weird. We have a guy in Romanov who his cardio has looked terrible always. I mean, his cardio looked horrible against Juan Espino, completely gassed out. He completely gassed out at the first round in the Tybura fight. His cardio looked worst ever against, Volkov. Romanov's a guy that he came in one of these fights looking in really good shape. I forget which fight it was. Maybe it was the Tybura fight. Now he's in really bad shape. I don't know what to think of Romanov at this point. And then we have Blagoy Ivanov, who this guy has, I think, 7 fights in the UFC. All 7 of them have went the distance. This guy's next level tough, next level durable. This is a weird fight, Weezy. It's a fight that I just really don't want anything to do with. I don't even know who I'm picking. I mean, I kind of want to see Romanov on the scales. Like, is he taking this fight serious? Is he training for this fight? Is he going to come in here looking like crap? Is he going to have 1 minute of cardio? Because if you have 1 minute cardio, I'm not picking you. I'll take Ivanov to hopefully survive, which he is going to, and then maybe take over late. This is a weird fight, Weezy. This is borderline 1-800 gambler for me. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of find it fascinating, which is hilarious because there's never been a fascinating Blagoy Ivanov fight in the UFC, right? They've all been horrible fights, and it's like it gets to the end, and it's like flip a coin. Who won the fight? Literally, nobody has any idea. Nobody's ever called a Blagoy Ivanov fight a robbery because nobody's ever had an opinion on who won. It's weird. So now you've got Romanov, and I mean, if you can find a worse archetype of fighter than the wrestler with no cardio, right? I mean, like, think about it. You know how much cardio you have to have in order to be able to wrestle effectively, especially when you're wrestling a 250-pound man, right? Well, Romanov just showed, I mean, like, he looked absolutely awful. Like you say, you cannot gas out after 1 minute in the UFC and think that you're not going to get your ass shaved, which is exactly what happened to him last time. So with Ivanov, you got a guy who's literally been stabbed in the heart and lived. So I mean, is Romanov getting him out of there? No, nobody's gotten him out of there. I mean, look at who he's been. It's not like he hasn't been in there with finishers, right? He's been in there with Junior Dos Santos, Tai Tuivasa, Derek Lewis, Marcos Rogerio de Lima, Sakai, Tabura. I mean, like, these guys are all finishers. Nobody's finished him. And I was looking at the over 1.5 because there's never been a Blagoy over-under set at 1.5. And I was kind of laughing because, Ivanov, he couldn't really finish a banana. I mean, he doesn't really have any offensive output at all. So who's he finishing? But the question then becomes, is Romanov even showing up in a gym and pretending to be a mixed martial artist right now? Because after that last performance, you have to wonder where the kid's head's at, because it wasn't he didn't even show up for that fight. He looked fat at the weigh-ins, and my money was already on him too, Brady. We both lost on that one. So yeah, he's going to need to look a lot better than what he looked last time in order to have any success here. And he's going to have to go 3 rounds because you're not finishing Ivanov. So this is a really weird fight. The over 1.5 is around minus 190 right now. And my thought is, if Romanov looks like he's in shape and looks like he's been training, maybe really bet that heavily, the over 1.5. Because Romanov's not finishing Ivanov, and Ivanov just has no offense. So I don't see how he finishes Romanov. So maybe that's the way I'll play this one. But it's weird, dude. It's a fascinating fight because there's narrative issues, there's recency bias, and then you've got the durability and the predictability of Ivanov. And on the other side, you've got a guy that you don't know where his head's at. He's looked absolutely fantastic and went off as a minus 1,500 favorite before, and then looked like complete dog shit against Volkov, and you wonder if he's ever going to fight again. So I don't know what to do with this fight, man. I mean, my advice, Brady, would be don't be too confident about what's going to happen in this one because Alexander Romanov is a wild card right now.
MMA Jesus saying Romanov's a lock.
Yeah.
Romanov was robbed. I think he's being serious, though. No, I think he's being serious.
Volkov grabbed the cage. He grabbed the cage, and that stopped the takedown. And who knows how the fight would have played out if Romanov actually got on top of Volkov, because he's a menace when he gets on top. But like you said, dude, when that takedown got stopped, it was like, holy shit, Romanov's done. And we're 56 seconds into this fight. So, yeah, I would say don't be confident about this one.
So I was looking at Romanov's Instagram, Weezy, to see what kind of shape he is in. And it looks like he posted a hype video like about 2 hours ago. Should I play the video? I'm not going to play with music. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but I'm going to play the hype video for Alexander Romanov, and this may help out our decision a little bit.
Let's have a look-see.
It's even funnier without music, by the way. Here we go.
Okay, good.
He made this himself. This is Alexander Romanov's hype video. Here we go.
All right.
Let me zoom out. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. You put music to it and everything. It's just like a slide of 5 pictures. What's he doing?
Like there's 2 ways we can look at this, right?
Yeah.
We could be like, okay, Alex made his own hype video and he didn't want to waste time on the hype video. So he put 5 pictures together because he's in that gym. He's working hard. His marketing people told him put a hype together, but he said, look, training is more important. So I'm going to put together a really ass hype video with 4 pictures of me and 1 picture of an empty pair of gloves, right?
What is he doing?
The other side of that coin, Brady, is like, what if he put as much effort into the hype video as he's put into his training for this camp? So once again, we're left with more questions than answers, aren't we here?
There's no caption or anything. And then he limited the comments on the post for good reason. He limited you're not allowed to comment on it.
And the comments are like, obviously his friends, because they're all saying like, this is an awesome video with the flexing and the fire, and it's like there's nothing fire about this. There's nothing.
Dude, I was on the edge of who to pick, but I think this sold me. I'm taking Ivanov.
I think, yeah. I mean, at least we know that Ivanov can survive, a knife to the heart. That's got to give you a little bit of confidence.
Yeah. By the way, Romanov is handsome. Look at him. He's a handsome man.
He is. He's a handsome man. That better not be Joe Jua in that picture. Otherwise, our guy Luke is going to be flying all the way to Moldova.
Yeah. I don't think it's Joe Jua, luckily.
Okay, so. Good. I was worried there for a second.
All right. I wish I could play with that with the music, but you're obviously not allowed to do that. But you guys can go take a look at it. With the music, it's a little bit better, I'd say.
That's great stuff.
All right. Let's move on. I think that was the first hype video we've ever watched on the show. Good.
For sure.
Okay, let's move on to a fight that shouldn't be sanctioned. We have Joanderson Brito going against Westin Wilson. We got Brito, who is 28 years old, 5'8" with a 72-inch reach. Westin Wilson. It sounds like a made-up name, Westin Wilson, but he's 34 years old, 6'1" with a 73-inch reach. You got Brito 6 years younger. It's going to be Wilson with a 5-inch height advantage and then a 1-inch reach advantage. So Brito, he has 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He had a decision win against Diego Lopez on the Contender Series, a decision loss to Bill Algeo, a knockout win against Andre Fili, and then a submission win against Lucas Alexander. As far as Westin Wilson, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So, yeah, I mean, this is bad, man. I went and watched tape on Wilson, and after taping both these guys, I was like, yeah, Brito's going to be minus 1,000. And I was close. He was minus 750. And then 2 hours later, he's now minus 1,000. So I think it's right around where it should be. If Wilson's going to win this fight, it's going to have to be some type of submission. I think his striking's not good at all. His striking defense is very, very bad. I think Brito can knock him out. Wilson's takedown defense is very, very bad. He accepts being on his back, and he's able to submit like lower level guys, but you're not submitting a black belt in Brito. It's just a terrible matchup that, like I said, this fight shouldn't even be sanctioned. It's a rough go. I think a lot of people got in on the under 1.5 earlier. I think it opened up at like plus 160, went to like minus 105, minus 135, minus 150. It's now minus like 215, and for good reason. Brito should go out there and starch him probably in the first 60 seconds. And I'm not even joking either. This should be pretty easy win for Brito here. So staying active, that's good. But this is a very, very easy matchup outside of like a fluke submission or something. I think Brito gets it done. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I'm looking to see who Brito was supposed to be fighting. It was Hussein Ashkabov. So this is obviously a short notice replacement in Westin Wilson, and we should, pray for his health because I don't know. I mean, this guy got slept by Teruto Ishihara just like a year and a half ago, and sure, he's got wins over Mike Wilson and Suksan Simpleman. He beat Suksan Simpleman 8-12 journeyman, tough guy. Charles Cheeks beat him though. Yeah, he's got a loss. He's got a loss to not the Charles Cheeks. It was Charles Cheeks the third. So it's not the Charles Cheeks that you're thinking of. But either way, man. Brito is minus 1,000. So I mean, like, what do you want from me, Brady? How what are we doing here? This is probably going to be a really rough night for Westin Wilson. He might go to the hospital. Let's just hope that he stays healthy and maybe it's a rear naked choke for Brito and Wilson doesn't get hurt too badly. But I know that this dude's been training in Orem, Utah at some point, and he was also over at Wonder Boys camp and over at Upstate Karate. You said you watched some tape on him and you weren't thoroughly impressed, Brady?
No.
I think that's all the analysis you need from Brady. And if it's minus 1,000, there's not much else I can do here, man. Good luck to you, Westin Wilson, making his UFC debut against a guy in Brito who's a tough customer.
Oh, he's a beast. This is pretty funny, and I agree with both. I agree with both these comments here. So Probaholic got under 1.5 at minus 105. That is a crazy line. But I also agree with Jarrett, like the under 1.5 minus 210. I think we see a sanctioned murder. This could make the last Miller KO seem gentle. I mean, yeah, I'm right there with you. I think they both had incredible line there, Probaholic. I wish I was awake when that was open, but yeah, it should be. No, oh my gosh. No. So yeah, should be Brito. Curious to see where they price him on DraftKings, because DraftKings have been going crazy with these prices as of late. Maybe they'll make him 10K. I don't know.
He might be, dude. He might. This guy, Westin Wilson's got 7 losses on his record. And it's not like you're like, oh, it's all UFC guys. It's Teruto Ishihara. It's somebody named Carson Free, who's 8-4. Bobby King, 6-3. Andrew Tennyson, 7-1. Charles Cheeks III, 11-6. Then he lost to Dan Barry, who's 13-20. And before that, LJ Schultz in Steel Fist Fight Night. He's 0-2 in Steel Fist Fight Night.
Oh my!
Where is that? Is that in somebody's basement? Have you ever heard of Steel Fist Fight Night?
No,
I mean, it was happening in 2015 and 2016. There's been 39 of them.
Goodness.
I mean, who the hell is fighting?
I feel like a guy like Kama Worthy be fighting in a promotion like that.
I think Askar Mozarov is 3-5 in Steel Fist Fight Night.
We have a question. Charles Cheeks III, did his cheeks get clapped in that fight? I didn't watch it. Did his cheeks get clapped? Or I didn't see
not by Westin Wilson. It was the other way around.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he lost. Charles Cheeks beat Westin Wilson.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mushroom says FGTD fight goes to decapitation. Yeah, I agree.
You might be right.
Yeah. So it's gonna be a fight. I mean, Westin should probably pull out, man. If once Westin watches tape on Brito, I don't know. I mean, that's a rough debut.
Yeah, and I mean, he's 23 fights into his MMA career already. So I mean, it's clearly like a journeyman that was the last guy to pick up the phone.
Yeah. Should be interesting. This is an interesting card. These first 4, the next one we're going to talk about is even better.
I can't wait. Let's do it.
Let's get into it. All right. We have Ivana Petrovic going against Luana Carolina. We got Petrovic. She is 28 years old, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. Carolina, 29 years old, 5'6" with a 69-inch reach. We have Carolina 1 year older. We have Petrovic with a 2-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Petrovic 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Obviously, she's undefeated, 6-0. Carolina, she is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Submission loss to Ariane Lipski. Decision win against Patelio Godinez. Knockout loss against Molly McCann. And then a decision loss against Joanne Wood. Yeah, I went and watched tape on Petrovic. Maybe my expectations were a little bit too high, I suppose, but I just wasn't that impressed at all. Went and watched a couple of her fights. Watched the decision win she had against, I don't even pronounce her name, Marta. I thought she lost that fight. I mean, on the feet, she's getting pieced up. I saw in one of her fights, she got dropped bad with it was a head kick or a knee. And pretty much all of her fights, especially early on, she's like losing the entire fight. And then all of a sudden she ends up on top. And when she gets on top, she's very good. She has good ground and pound. She has a good submission game. She's able to finish these like lower level fighters. But on the feet, I just don't think she's that great. And then we have Luana Carolina, right? But we have one of these fighters is like minus 200 something. It's wild. I think Carolina's getting very disrespected. It's just, I don't know if I want to bet on her, but this line's so wrong. Unless Petrovic is making extreme improvements, but I think that Marta fight was like back in 2022, like a year ago. So I don't really want to bet this fight, but if it's a clear dog or pass, you do not want to lay like minus 220, 230 on Petrovic. I'm not sure she's UFC caliber, to be honest. She's fought extremely low level competition. She's losing a lot of minutes in these fights. So I'd be very, very careful in terms of laying any type of chalk on her. So it's Luana Carolina or pass. It's just betting Luana Carolina seems pretty terrifying to me, but well, in it, Bootsy's on Carolina as well, so we'll see. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight? It's kind of a mess, but yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, when I saw the line, I mean, I haven't taped Petrovic yet, but when I saw the line, I was like, wait a second. You got a 6-0 Croatian girl who's fighting an Aries FC, and she's a minus 250 favorite to Luana Carolina, whose last 5 fights are Ariane Lipski, Poliana Botelho, Lupi Godinez, Molly McCann, and Joanne Wood. And then even before that, she's fighting some tough. She's got a win over Priscilla Cachoeira. You know, she's I mean, she's much more well tested. Both of these ladies are born on June 11th. It's Luana Carolina, who's 1 year older. So Ivana's a year younger, 2 inches taller, and has a 2-inch reach advantage. But outside of that, she's less experienced. She's fought the much worse brand of competition. And then when you watch the tape on her, it's not. You know, when you're fighting an Aries FC, you should be winning cleanly. I mean, anywhere but say Invicta, where you're going to be getting really good competition. Maybe like CFFC or LFA, where you're going to be getting the highest level of regional scene competition. Once you get outside of those promotions on regional scene women's MMA, any undefeated prospect should be, looked at with a fine-tooth comb. Really look at their opponents. Really look at how talented they are and what kind of resistance they gave, Petrovic. So, yeah, this doesn't make much sense to me. Luana Carolina is a solid striker. She's got very good takedown defense. We've seen fighters go in there and really try to get fights to the ground and just be unable to do it. Godinez has attempted a ton of takedowns against her. So even though Ivana Petrovic is going to be younger and bigger here, I really need to kind of go through that regional scene footage with a fine-tooth comb and see if, Evelina Wozniak, Alexandra Tekena, Marta Walichek, when you look at their records, they're not bad. They've got good regional scene records. I just want to see what kind of, resistance they're putting up. What can you tell me about these ladies?
Yeah, I mean, kind of tempted on Carolina, but yeah, I saw people were getting plus 240s out there on Carolina, which is it's absurd. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on here. I think maybe people think that Carolina's really bad, and maybe that's the case. But I think they're both pretty bad. So I'm laying minus 225 on just it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, you laying minus 200 on any female UFC fighter is just, you shouldn't do it. I mean, It just happened yesterday. Amanda Hebas minus 200 against Macy Barber gets knocked out in the second round. And your Uncle Weezy pulls his head out of the oven, takes the no funeral sign off my back, and is like, I'm back next week. I'm going to be back for Stat Diggers.
I like it.
Yeah. So I would, even with no tape, I kind of feel like Luana Carolina at plus 180, just, it makes sense. She's more experienced. She's more well tested. She's got very good striking for this division. So might be enough.
Yep. No, I agree.
Such a good hype video.
Yeah, I got hyped watching it. I wanted to run through a wall. I was so pumped up. I mean, look at those gloves. You don't see gloves like that anywhere else, but
you don't, dude.
You really don't. But yeah, it should be an interesting one. I don't know if I want to bet on, because if I bet on Luana Carolina and she loses, I mean, I'll be upset, but at least I'm not laying chalk on her. So at least if she does lose, it's hey, I got plus 190. But if you laid chalk on this chick, what's her name, Petrovic, at minus 225, and she lost, that's when I would kind of throw my TV out a window, all that type of stuff. So I'd rather be on the plus money, if anything. Passing's definitely the best option here, but we'll see.
Yep, I agree with you.
All right, Weezy, we'll keep moving on. Another interesting fight. We got Yana Santos going against Carol Rosa. We got Yana Santos, 33 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. Carol Rosa, she is 28 years old, 5'5" with a 67-inch reach. Carol Rosa, she is 5 years younger with a 1-inch height disadvantage and a 1-inch reach disadvantage. We got Santos, who is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. She had a knockout loss against Aspen Ladd, a decision win against Julia Stoliarenko, a decision win against Ketlin Vieira, a knockout loss against Irene Aldana, and then a decision loss against Holly Holm. As far as Carol Hosa, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. A decision win against Jocelyn Edwards, a decision win against Betch Correa, decision loss against Sarah McMahon, decision win against Lena Landsberg, and then a decision loss against Norma Dumont. So this fight is going to be at featherweight, which this is the first fight for Santos at featherweight in a very long time. Do you know the last time Santos fought at featherweight? It had to have been like a while ago.
It might have been the Aspen Ladd fight, just because Ladd misses weight all the time, but it would have probably been the Chris Cyborg fight, because they brought her in to fight Cyborg for the championship when one of Cyborg's opponents had dropped out. So I think she made her debut at 145 in the UFC, but after that, she went back down to her natural weight class. And the reason this is at 145 is because Santos was supposed to fight Macy Chiasson. Chiasson dropped out. Hosa's been fighting at 145. She said, I can make 145 if you want to give me the short notice replacement fight.
Yep. So, yeah, you're right. It was Cyborg the last time that Santos fought at featherweight. But yeah, I mean, it's weird. I mean, I thought Santos was a lot older than 33 because I was watching her like Holm and Aldana fight. Like, she looks terrible as of late. She looked off on the Holm fight. I know it's Holly Holm. But my goodness, she was getting dominated in that fight. Holm was close to finishing her like several times in that matchup. With Carol Hosa, she's going to be younger here. I think she's more in her prime. Santos came off a pregnancy after that. It was after the Aldana fight. And then her first fight back from pregnancy was the Holm fight. And yeah, she just looked awful. So I'm not sure how much Yana Santos has left in the tank at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if this might even be her last fight. So I like Hosa here. I don't like the price tag. I think she's like minus 175 last time I checked. I'll see what it is now. Minus 150. Oh, money is pouring in on Santos. So Santos opened at plus 210. She's currently plus 136. So money coming in on Santos. Hosa is now minus 156. Even there, I'm not really tempted to bet any side. This is probably the biggest pass fight on the card for me, on a card where we have Romanov, Ivanov, and then on a card where we have Petrovic, Carolina. This is a fight I just don't want nothing to do with. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, my thoughts is that Hosa in a vacuum here should be the favorite, but she is taking the fight on short notice, so that's got to play into it. And now Yana doesn't have to cut the weight, which is going to be fine, because it's not like Hosa's this massive featherweight that would have no chance of making 135. She moved up to featherweight because she got sick of making the weight cut. So there's not a big difference here. As a matter of fact, Santos is 1 inch taller and has a 1 inch reach advantage here over Hosa. So, and I like Hosa's volume on the feet, Brady's fantastic. Look at that, 16.73 distance strike attempts per minute. She's landing 8.55. So big time 1.8 distance strike differential, well above average volume, good accuracy at 51%. The striking defense leaves a little bit to be desired. But you look at Santos, who's averaging 1.28 takedowns per 15 minutes, and Hosa, who's averaging 1.43. But you look at the control time numbers. See, Santos spends a lot of time in the clinch, and she's very comfortable there. But Hosa is pretty good at getting those takedowns. Look she's getting them at 45%. She's stopping them at about 68%. So both the takedown accuracy and the takedown defense are both above average, while Santos is showing 45% takedown defense, and she's being controlled 27% of the time. So I think Hosa might be a little bit more ready to win minutes with the grappling. And I think she might be a little bit more ready to win minutes with the striking as well. The problem is that Santos has fought the better brand of competition here. So I'm a little bit worried about, what if Hosa here is the one who is a little bit compromised because it's a short notice fight? What if, she wasn't training? What if there's a lot of what ifs here? And there's also what ifs on Santos's side, because you've got a situation where she hasn't looked good in her last couple of fights, but that's against Irene Aldana, who just fought for the title, and Holly Holm, who's fought for the title. Before that, it's Ketlin Vieira, Stolyarenko, Aspen Ladd. You look at the last 5 names for, Hosa, it's Jocelyn Edwards, Betch Correa, Sarah McMahon beat her, Lena Landsberg, who's like 41 or 42 years old. And then she had a pretty clean loss here to Norma Dumont. So I don't exactly know where Hossa is. So since I feel like Hossa should be the favorite, I'm just going to stay away from this one because I kind of feel like that line is right about where it should be.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I'm not sure. Like you said, is Santos a washed bum now, or is it because she fought Holly Holm and Aldana? I don't know, but I don't want to find out. So I'm going to be passing on this one for sure. And I think we can move on to the next fight, which is a lot more interesting. We have the return of Kevin Lee going against Rinat Fakhretdinov. We got Kevin Lee, 30 years old, 5'9", with a 77-inch reach. Fakhretdinov, 31 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. We have Kevin Lee, 1 year younger. Fakhretdinov with a 3-inch height advantage, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach disadvantage. So Kevin Lee, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Submission loss to RDA, knockout win against Gregor Gillespie, a submission loss to Charles Oliveira, a decision loss against Daniel Rodriguez, goes outside the UFC, fights Diego Sanchez, wins that fight by decision. As far as Rinat Fakhretdinov, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Andreas Michailidis, wins that fight by decision, and then it beats Brian Battle by decision. So this is going to be the first time we've seen Kevin Lee inside the UFC in about a year and a half or so. And then this is going to be the first time we've seen Kevin Lee fight in about a year. The last time he fought was against Diego Sanchez, which is about a year and 3 months ago. So Kevin Lee apparently as of late has been battling some injuries. I don't know if it was before. I think it was before the Rodriguez fight. He had like surgery on both of his knees. So he's been dealing with that. He's only 30 years old. It's just an interesting fight here. I think it's all going to come down to whether Fakhretdinov is going to be able to get takedowns here on Kevin Lee. You know, Fakhretdinov was able to take down Andreas Michailidis and Brian Battle, but it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge, obviously, to take down Kevin Lee. A very, very interesting fight here, Weezy. A fight that, I don't know, a fight that's kind of weird. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, this is one where I kind of feel like I need to know where Kevin Lee's head's at. I need to know what his injury situation is because Rinat is a guy that I bet against in the Battle fight because I felt and I still feel that Rinat has below average striking for the UFC. He's fought terrible competition. Most of the promotions that Rinat has fought in, most people haven't even heard of. And he's fought a much worse brand of competition. I mean, obviously, than Kevin Lee. Look at some of the wins on Kevin Lee's record. I mean, Gregor Gillespie, Michel Prazeres, Jake Matthews, Magomed Mustafayev, Francisco Trinaldo, Michael Chiesa, Edson Barbosa, Gregor Gillespie, and then you look at the names that Rinat Fakhretdinov is beaten. And yeah, we've got a couple names in the UFC. One of them is Andreas Michailidis. Of course, he's Greek. It's hard to beat the Greeks. But I mean, Eric Spicely and UAE Warriors, Johnny Carlos and Alberto Uda in GFC. And before that, it's a bunch of 0-0 guys. Really. I mean, Vladimir Migovic, 3-3. Viktor Shabalov, 1-1. Mamedov, 0-0. Oliver, 0-0. Kaldar, 1-1. In the Legacy of Sparta Fighting Championship. He beat Kevin Oliver in Battle for Samara. WEF Global. He beat a 0-0 guy there. So we need to find out what Rinat Fakhretdinov's wrestling is going to look like against a wrestler. A real wrestler. Kevin fucking Lee. The guy that knocked out Gregor Gillespie. The guy that rear naked choked Michael Chiesa. The guys that he's beaten would go undefeated in Rinat Fakhretdinov's strength of schedule. They'd all be 23-0. So it's a show me spot. Just like the Fakhretdinov against Battle was a show me spot for Fakhretdinov, and he showed it. He showed up. He looked absolutely fantastic. The level of wrestling between Kevin Lee and Brian Battle isn't even on the same planet. So I need to know where Kevin's at, Brady. I need to know if he's healthy. I want to maybe even hear an interview or two with him. I want to hear what he's talking about here because I feel like I don't even need to watch tape on this fight. If Kevin Lee shows up and he's Kevin Lee, he should absolutely beat Rinat Fakhretdinov. He should absolutely beat him.
No, I agree. I think it all comes down to whether or not Kevin Lee is a washed bum at this point. Which is crazy to say. He's only 30 years old, but I don't know.
This is as good of a time to ask that question. Is Kevin Lee a bum? Because they're lining him like a bum.
They are.
They really are. I mean, like, Fakhretdinov's best win is Brian Battle, who's a kickboxer. He's not a wrestler. Everybody takes down Brian Battle. So we've got a lot more we got a lot of missing information on Fakhretdinov. What we've seen from him in the cage, though, thus far in the UFC is excellent. Excellent. And I'm not gonna say that he hasn't been looked absolutely fantastic. But level of competition, Brady, it's so important the way that we have fights.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's going to be his toughest test by a mile. Kevin Lee is definitely not Brian Battle or Andreas Michailidis. It looks like this line has closed up a lot, actually. So believe it or not, Weezy, Fakhretdinov opened at minus 350, and he's currently sitting at minus 190.
Yeah.
And Lee is currently sitting at plus 165 here. Money coming in on the Lee side. Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to whether or not Lee has anything left in the tank. If he does, I mean, this is a very winnable fight. At the very least, it should be a pick 'em. If Lee's coming in here healthy, 100% healthy, ready to go, at the very least, it should be a pick 'em. It's just, is he? That's the big question. That's kind of what I'm struggling with.
Yeah, is he motivated? Is his head in the right space right now? He went and left for Eagle FC, and he's been a free agent, Brady. And now the UFC has him back. I'm sure there's still some acrimony there on Lee's part, because he left of his own free will, saying, like, you guys don't want to pay me, so I'll go fight anywhere else if they're willing to pay me. So it's weird that they're even giving him a shot here. And I wonder which one of these guys asked for this fight, or whether it was just made with, like, let's see where Rinat's wrestling is here, because now we'll just throw him in there against Kevin Lee.
Yeah, the other thing I that scares me is the size. Like, Fakhretdinov's gonna be much, much bigger than Kevin Lee, who fought at 155 for the majority of his career. So that's another thing that kind of worries me a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if Kevin Lee shows up motivated, healthy, 100% ready to go, I think it should be a pick him at the very least. It's just, I don't know that. I want to listen to some interviews as well, see where his head's at. But I don't know if I want to touch this fight.
Yeah, I mean, my money hasn't gotten anywhere near it yet, and I kind of feel like the reason is that we're just missing a lot of information here about Kevin Lee, not necessarily about Fakhretdinov, but the missing information about Fakhretdinov. We're gonna get that information on Saturday, because we're gonna find out if this dude's wrestling is really UFC level or not, because Kevin Lee's is.
Yep, 100%. So it might be just a good fight to sit back and watch, but it is a clear dog or pass for me. By the way, we got a dono earlier in the show. I just saw it. Shout out to our guy Robert, $2 dono, saying Kuda Taladze, Rinat parlay thoughts. Weezy, give your thoughts on that. I'm going to see what the line is on that.
Yeah, so Rinat at a favorite money here. But you brought up a great point, because it's the size is important here. Kevin Lee is a 55er who could no longer make 55 and got pushed up to 170. And Fakhretdinov was a guy who fought his entire career at middleweight and then didn't cut down to welterweight until his UFC debut. Both him and Michailidis actually had fought their entire career at middleweight, and then they both cut down to 170 for that UFC debut for Fakhretdinov. So yeah, I mean, I could see why people are going with the hotter guy right now in Fakhretdinov. He's definitely we've seen more of him lately, and we've seen a lot more good things from him lately. So I wouldn't personally parlay Fakhretdinov, but I mean, Guram feels safe. And if Kevin Lee's not in the right headspace, then you're going to cash that.
Yeah, that comes out to minus 139, at least on FanDuel. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say it would hit. But no, I don't like the line on Fakhretdinov. I don't like that fight in general. But yeah, Guram should style on this guy. So we'll see. I'd say it hits, but it's not something I would do personally. I was actually looking for something to parlay up Kuda Taladze with. I didn't see anything on this card. I even looked at 290 to maybe parlay something up with him, but kind of missed the boat, and he's already minus 530 best price now. So I don't think I'm gonna have any parlays this week.
Yeah, I hate parlays, man.
Yep, they got me last week. All right. We will move on to the next fight. We have Bruno Ferreira going against Nursulton Ruziboev. We got Ruziboev, who is 29 years old, 6'4", not sure on the reach. Ferreira, 30 years old, 5'10", 72-inch reach. We have Ruziboev, who is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, all by finish. We have Bruno Ferreira, who is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, all by finish. We have a knockout win for Ferreira in his Contender Series fight. Then he goes out there and beats Gregory Rodriguez in the first round by knockout, brutal knockout, as a really big dog there. And yeah, I like Bruno Ferreira quite a bit. This guy hits like an absolute truck. He has solid wrestling. Like, he can get the fight down to the mat, and when he gets on top, he has some of the best ground and pound out there. Very, very heavy hitter, not only on the feet, but on the mat. And I think that can definitely come into play here against Ruziboev. The thing with Ruziboev here, this guy has so many fights. It's wild, like over 40 fights. There's a ton of footage out there on him. I watched like 7 or 8 fights of the guy, and I'm just not sure what to think of him. I mean, he's very dangerous. He has a lot of submissions on his record. He has a lot of knockouts on his record, hasn't fought the best competition. Like, I'm not really familiar. He has so many fights. I didn't really recognize one name that he fought. Just not really sure what to really think of this guy. But I think he's solid. He's huge is something I noticed. And then I go and look at the height. He's like 6'4". So he's going to have a 6-inch height advantage. Some things I didn't like about Ruziboev is he gets taken down by a gust of wind. So I kind of feel like Ferreira can take this guy down, get on top, and pound him out. And on the feet, although Ruziboev in like 40-some fights, he's only been knocked out once. I don't know if that's going to matter against a guy like Bruno Ferreira that just hits like a truck. So I kind of like Ferreira here. But maybe Ruziboev is a beast. But I don't know. I don't know what to think of this guy. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's I mean, like, my template that I use to compile fighter histories only allows for 40 fights outside the UFC. So like the stats on Ruziboev aren't even correct because he's got like 44 fights or 46 fights. So yeah, 93% finish rate in the wins that I have here, which are 29 of them. I think there are a few more actually. But with Ferreira, I mean, I saw a guy that when he was matched up against Gregory Rodriguez, I was like, I am not laying the juice on Rodriguez. This dude looks like he has been taking steroids since the age of 2. He's built like a goddamn fire hydrant, this Ferreira guy. He hits people, they go to sleep. He gets on top of you, and it's like having a slab of marble on top of you, and he just punches holes through people's faces. I really like what I see out of this Bruno Ferreira. Undefeated. He's active. He's 100% finisher. And his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game is actually there. He's got 3 wins by submission, but mostly he just knocks people's heads off. So it's a tall order for a journeyman with 2 draws, 2 no contests, at least 7 losses, 44 fights, and we've never seen him beat anybody that anybody's ever heard of. So I see a big, long, tall guy whose body is probably going to be wide open, and you say that he can't stop a takedown. So, yeah, I mean, I like Ferreira here, obviously, but I need to watch some tape on Ruziboev. I just found out about this fight today.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like Ferreira here, I'd say, but this guy Ruziboev, he's a wild card. Like, I don't know, he could be legit. It's just I don't know. He hasn't fought anybody, so we'll see. It looks like Ferreira they opened us up a pick, a -110. It's Ferreira -150 right now. The under 1.5 is -200 already. It got pounded. That opened up a pick 'em. That's -200. The only thing that concerns me about laying this chalky price tag on the under is, I don't know, what if Ferreira shows up and doesn't want to fight, doesn't want to be there, jumps Gilly, and I don't know. So that'd be the one thing that scared me. But I think this probably does go under, but -200 for the under, something I won't be touching. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the Ferreira inside the distance might be plus money since he's only -150, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with this fight yet.
Yeah, I mean, like, Ruziboev is 2-6-2 in decisions. So he's obviously quite, he needs the finish. He's not a minute winner. He probably just wins moments. And with Ferreira, the guy is obviously a moment winner as well. So, yeah, I mean, somebody's going to get served here. But yeah, under 1.5 feels like it should absolutely happen.
Yep. It certainly feels like it. All right. We'll move on to the next fight. We have a very good fight here. We have Benoît Saint-Denis going against Ismael Bonfim. We got Bonfim, 27 years old, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. Saint-Denis, 27 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. Same age there. We have Saint-Denis, 3-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. We got Bonfim, who is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Terrence McKinney, won that fight by second-round knockout, one of the best knockouts of the year. Benoît Saint-Denis, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, lost that fight by decision. He beat Nicholas Stolte by submission, and then he knocked out Gabriel Miranda in the second round there. Yeah, Bonfim's a big favorite. Like we always say, Weezy, hype drives the line. I like Bonfim to win this fight. I think it's a good matchup for him. You know, Bonfim earlier in his career, he has 3 submission losses. I think those come back came from like 2014. I think he's really patched up that hole in his game. Nowadays, his takedown defense looks very, very good. Saw him stuff all the takedowns against McKinney. Saw him stuff some takedowns on the fight prior to that. So I think his takedown defense is coming along, and he's just going to be the much better striker here. I mean, Benoît Saint-Denis, he has power, all that, but his striking defense is a huge liability. I think I was watching one of the fights with, and Dean Thomas came on, and he was like talking about Saint-Denis' striking defense, talking about how his head does not move at all off the center line. I mean, this guy's striking defense is terrible. I think on paper it's like 40%. So Bonfim should have a field day on the feet, and I think he stuffs the takedowns here. I like Bonfim to win this fight. It's just whether does he stop Saint-Denis or not. It looks like the books are expecting Bonfim to go out there and stop him early. They set the over-under at 1.5. I might even lean like over. Like Bonfim almost went over 1.5 with Terrence McKinney. I think Saint-Denis is tough enough to last at least 7.5 minutes here, but probably won't bet it because that's going to be terrifying. But yeah, I think Bonfim, and maybe even by decision with how tough Saint-Denis is, and Bonfim's like not some murderous finisher. I know he finished Terrence McKinney, but prior to that, 3 decisions. So give me Bonfim here. Just don't really see any way to play this fight. I see a lot of people taking the dog shot on Saint-Denis, which I get it. It's a very wide line. It's just, you know, how does he win this fight? Is he going to take down Bonfim, control him, submit him? I don't really see it. So give me Bonfim to get it done, but no bet for me on this fight.
Yeah, if you're looking for paths for Saint-Denis, it's going to be the submission. I mean, he's a good grappler, and he's very durable, like you said. But I bet against both Bonfim brothers on their debut in the UFC, and that's been something I've had to work through with my therapist now, and it's not getting any easier for me to have to admit that.
Yeah.
Not only did Ismael just absolutely destroy Terrence McKinney, he stopped both of his takedowns, and Terrence McKinney was like a top 5 wrestler in the country in high school. It's not like you're just stopping takedowns from some bum. This guy can absolutely wrestle, and Bonfim's stuffing his takedowns. His brother made such quick work of Munir Lazez, who's a stud. I mean, these Bonfim brothers are clearly high-level prospects with super high ceilings. We could see both of them top 10, you know, just from what they've shown on tape thus far. There really doesn't look to be any holes, Brady. Do you see any holes in Ismael's game?
Not now. If we're talking 9 years ago.
Long time ago, right?
9 years ago, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. It's like, you know, I mean, like shit that's happened 9 years ago, I mean, it doesn't really even matter anymore. You know, my database only goes back 10 years. And every once in a while, I'll look at a fighter who's been in the UFC for 15 years, and I'll be like, oh, you know, I'll look and I'll be like, oh shit, you know, we're not going to have any of that data. And then I look at who they fought. I'm like, I don't even know who the hell these people are. You know, I mean, it's so long ago, it really doesn't mean that much, man. You know, and I'm high on Saint-Denis. I kind of get that. You know, I kind of get how you could just say, you know what, Benoît Saint-Denis at plus 265 against anybody that's like not top 10 in the division. Sure, I'll take a shot on that. I get it. But I am not betting against anybody with the last name Bonfim for a minute, Brady. For a minute. I mean, I might need to see these guys lose 3 in a row before I start saying, like, all right, now I'm going to short them. You know, because I felt like such a loser for betting Terrence McKinney and Munir Lazez on the same card. And I was like, never again. Because sometimes you lose a bet and you're like, okay, that one could have went either way. I don't mind that read. And then sometimes you're like looking in the mirror with tears in your eyes going, what made you think Terrence McKinney was going to beat this guy? What made you pick Terrence McKinney for the ass shaving of the week against this Ismael Bonfim guy? Nah, man, I'm not picking against this guy, Bonfim. No chance in hell.
Yep. Bonfim's very, very good. And so is Saint-Denis, but I think Bonfim, it's a good matchup for him. And there's a reason he's a pretty big favorite. Should be minus 310, probably not, but yeah, he opened at minus 250, already minus 310. Saint-Denis opened up plus 210, currently plus 260. So Bonfim's a huge, huge favorite here. And which is scary because Saint-Denis, he's dangerous wherever the fight goes, really has power in the feet, and then his submission game is next level. So yeah, would not be laying that price tag on Bonfim, but in terms of a pick, yeah, I'm picking him.
Me too, for sure. Sorry, I was mid gulp on water there.
I was just reading the chat. Somebody said they had to go back and watch the Romanov breakdown again.
That's a great hype video. I mean, I can't blame them. Yeah, if our analysis will never be as hot as that. I mean, I punched a hole through the wall that you can't see over here because the camera is facing the other way, and my fist is bleeding, and I want to punch it again. I'm that fired up.
Yeah, you should hear it with the music. It's like the some Russian burn, burn, like you're shaking burn. It's crazy. It's crazy. It gets you going, man. Burn.
Put the hood on there. And all these pictures are like 9 years old.
Crazy.
None of them are from the UFC.
None of them are recent. Those are back in 2016. Not sure what's going on.
He was 3-0 back then.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. Let's just move on. We have Ariane Lipski going against Melissa Gatto. We got Ariane Lipski, 29 years old, 5'6" with a 67-inch reach. Melissa Gatto, 27 years old, 5'5" with a 69-inch reach. We got Gatto 2 years younger. Gatto with a 1-inch height disadvantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. We got Lipski. She is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. We got a knockout loss against Antonina Shevchenko, knockout loss against Montana De La Rosa, decision win against Mandy Bum, a knockout loss against Priscilla Cachoeira, and then a decision win against JJ Aldrich. As far as Melissa Gatto, she is 1-3 and 1 draw in her last 5 fights. She made her debut against Victoria Leonardo, won that fight by knockout, doctor stoppage. Leonardo broke her arm, and then she knocked out Ciara Eubanks 3rd round, and then she lost a decision against Tracy Cortez. So Weezy, rewind about, I think it was about a year ago or less even. Ariane Lipski takes on JJ Aldrich. JJ Aldrich is a minus 300 favorite. We come here on the show and we tell everybody, don't lay minus 300 on JJ Aldrich. And people got mad. People got mad at us. And all of a sudden, it was Lipski that looked minus 300 in that matchup. I couldn't believe that performance from Ariane Lipski. Was it Lipski making a ton of improvements in a very short period of time? Or was it JJ Aldrich just not showing up at all? I'm not sure. But that outcome definitely, it shocked me, to be honest. I didn't play Lipski or Aldrich in that fight, but that outcome shocked me. I actually had the over. But yeah, I don't know. That matchup was that fight was weird. I'm pretty high on Melissa Gatto. So you take a look at her fights, like outside the UFC, they're whatever, she could be stuck on her back, all this, all that. She shows up against Leonardo, just looks like a completely different fighter. I'm like, who's this? Because this is not who I saw on tape whatsoever. She goes out there, beats her up bad, finishes her. Against Ciara Eubanks, she loses the 1st round. She gets taken out in the 2nd. She gets a reversal, gets on top, and then she finishes Eubanks in the 3rd round. Very impressive win there. And then she fights Cortez, which is a very, very tough matchup. What got me here on the Gatto side is just going back and watching some of these Lipski fights. I mean, the Montana De La Rosa, getting TKO'd by Montana De La Rosa is a horrible look. Getting TKO'd by Antonina Shevchenko is just inexcusable. I think Gatto's dangerous everywhere. On the feet, she has a lot of power, but her submission game's legit. Like, if Gatto can get on top of Lipski somehow, take her down, get on. I mean, the fight's going to be over shortly after. If Shevchenko and De La Rosa are styling on you on the mat, man, what is Gatto going to do to you? So now I don't not only like Gatto here, but I like Gatto to finish Lipski. Like I think she can get on top and finish this fight easily. I think the under at plus money is this all look for this one as well. But I like Gatto here. Do I like what is she like? Probably like minus 200 something, minus 210? Probably not, but I might look at like a big, like inside the distance prop. Weezy, this should be a fun fight here.
Yeah, it should. When Gatto fought last, and it was a year and a month ago. So Melissa Gatto, we haven't seen her in over a year here. Something to mention. But I had picked Tracy Cortez for the ass shaving of the week to beat Gatto. And I picked Cortez to win by decision. It was my most confident bet of the week. That fight was close. That fight was really close. And I hold Tracy Cortez in a very high regard, Brady. And she's a good fighter too. Okay. So, but she can really wrestle. And the fact that Gatto was able to stop a couple of takedowns, was able to get a reverse, was able to really stay safe with Tracy on top of her. And not only that, threaten with submissions, get reverses. And she's the better striker against Cortez too. So even though I was confident that Tracy Cortez would beat her, and Tracy did beat her, and I cashed that decision ticket, I was blown away by how Gatto handled herself against a fighter in Tracy Cortez, who's one of the best wrestlers in the flyweight division by far. So, with her fighting Lipski, somebody that we've seen have so much trouble on the ground, I don't like this matchup for Ariane Lipski. I think that if Gatto is able to get the takedowns here, she should style on her. The only thing is, if Lipski stops the takedowns and keeps this fight standing, Melissa Gatto is not going to look minus 200.
No.
But I don't know if I can count on that to happen. So I have to favor Gatto and not only that, Gatto's striking looks so much better than it did on tape before her debut. I remember going into that Leonardo fight, we were like, well, if Leonardo keeps it standing, she could win because Gatto's striking looked terrible. And then she came into that fight and she looked clean and technical, she was throwing jabs and the jab was coming right back to her chin for good defense. And she was using her length well. She's a good size flyweight, 69-inch reach, 5'5". So yeah, I'm really high on Gatto here. She has to get this fight to the ground to look minus 210, but I think she'll get it there. And I think once she does, she probably gets a finish.
Yeah, I mean, just the way like Antonina just ran through Lipski. I mean, Antonina Shevchenko, man,
is a striker too. She
is yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Gatto here. A lot could go wrong though, laying minus 210 on it for sure. But yeah, I think she should get it done.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's it. We always got to look through the lens of what could go wrong laying minus 200 on a women's favorite. But still, if Gatto gets this to the grappling, she's going to have a big advantage. Sure, her submission game is so good.
Oh yeah, she's very dangerous, and she has good ground and pound as well that I like. So, should be a good one. All right, we'll keep moving on. Then we have Max Griffin going against Michael Morales. We got Max Griffin, 37 years old, 5'11", with a 76-inch reach. Michael Morales, 23 years old, 6 foot, with a 79-inch reach. We have Morales is going to be 14 years younger. He's going to have a 1-inch height advantage, a 3-inch reach advantage. Max Griffin, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win against Ramirez Brahimaj in the fight where he ripped off his ear. A knockout win against Kanan Song. A decision win against Carlos Condit. A decision loss against Neil Magny. And then a decision win against Tim Means. As far as Michael Morales, had a Contender Series decision win. Made his debut against Officer Trevin Giles. Knocked him out in the first round. And then he knocked out Adam Fugit in the 3rd round. So yeah, Michael Morales, he's only 23 years old. This guy's super, super young, 14-0, going against Max Griffin, who's been in the UFC just for a very, very long time. Max Griffin getting up there in age, though, 37.5 years old. Weezy should be a good fight, a really good test here for Michael Morales. I mean, beating Trevin Giles, that's a good win. Beating a guy like Adam Fugit, that's a good win. Beating a guy like Max Griffin is going to be a very, very good win, and he's expected to, according to this line. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, dude, I had a bet on Neil Magny against Max Griffin, and I was furious when the fight ended. I thought that Max Griffin was going to get that decision. If he did, he'd be 5-0 in his last 5. And look at the names, Condit, Magny, Means, those are good tests. While for Morales, it's Ricardo Centeno and Miguel Arizmendi and Veretennikov on the Contender Series. Now, Morales is a hell of a prospect. He just turned 24 years old yesterday. Happy birthday, Michael Morales. Ecuador, stand up. Judo black belt. Huge size for the division. Great volume. Above average accuracy. But he's got 42% distance striking defense, Brady. And you got a guy like, Max Griffin, who's 48% accurate, has 61.7% defense. He's got a positive 0.59 striking differential. His wrestling's good, man. Max Griffin was mixing in his wrestling a lot. And he recently hasn't gone to it as much, but he's pretty efficient in these grappling exchanges. He gets his takedowns at 50%. He stops them at 71.1%, which is above average. Like you said, dude, this is a very good test for Michael Morales. And while Michael Morales is almost 14 years younger, which is a massive statistic that has big-time significance, Max Griffin's fought the much better brand of competition overall. And he's very well tested. He's very durable. I wonder what the over is in this fight. We got over, it's juiced. Yeah, minus 153. I think that's a pretty fair line. I wouldn't mind taking a shot at Max Griffin at plus 205 on the money line, Brady. I'm very high on Michael Morales, but Max Griffin is no joke. Not really a lot of weaknesses in his game. Very durable. So I could see this being a close fight.
Yeah, here's what scares me about laying minus 250 on Morales. It's that durability of Max Griffin. He's fought a lot of good guys in the UFC. Only been knocked out once. And who was he knocked out by? Wasn't it Colby Covington? Yeah.
Yeah, it was Colby.
Via TKO ground and pound. So Colby knocked him out. Other than that, he has 8 decision losses. So super tough. That scares me. And then on top of that, the striking defense of Michael Morales scares me as well. And I'm curious to see what happens in like these grappling exchanges. Who's going to be able to get takedowns here? Is it going to be Morales being able to take down Griffin or vice versa? So minus 240 is a lot. I know, and there's a lot of hype on Morales, and rightfully so. I think this guy's the real deal. But I mean, Max Griffin's not a complete bomb. So yeah, minus 240, it's too much for my liking. He opened up minus 240. The line hasn't really moved much. Max Griffin plus 205. I don't know. It's probably what I'm staying away from, but maybe like a Max Griffin, like a plus 3.5, and maybe at plus money, go out there, win one round against Mike Morales, cash that ticket. But I'm not sure if he wins the fight. And on top of that, Weezy, I mean, who does the UFC want to win? 37-year-old Max Griffin or 23-year-old undefeated Mike Morales? So that's why I kind of like that plus 3.5, because maybe Max Griffin does win the fight, but there's no way the judges are going to score it for him. So plus 3.5 is probably what I'll look at. But outside of that, not much sticking out. Max Griffin's super tough. I think this fight probably goes, and I think it's probably more competitive than this line does indicate.
Yeah, I mean, Max Griffin is legit, you guys. I mean, look, like when you're 5-0 in your last 5 in the UFC, you do not ignore that. And yeah, I mean, he did lose a split decision to Neil Magny, but go back and watch that fight. That could have easily been scored for Griffin. He's been in there with much better competition than Mike Morales has. He's more experienced, and he's got some really good wrestling too. And we saw Morales actually go to his wrestling in the Veretennikov fight on DWCS. And what I loved about that performance was he said that wasn't in the game plan, but Veretenikov's striking was better than Morales had expected. And this young man at the age of 21 is going in there, going to plan B and having the toolbox to actually be able to execute that plan. The kid's future is super bright, so it's like I say, the line is wide, but if you're laying the juice on Morales, you're getting the guy with the higher ceiling.
Yeah, and Laura Senka was like surprised whenever he went for takedowns on the Contender Series. She was like, I didn't see this on his regional scene. So yeah, he's definitely making improvements very, very quickly. The guy has a huge ceiling. I agree.
Yeah, it's a great fight. This is a really good one. This card's fun, dude.
It is. It's like a weird. There's a lot of weird, fun matchups. I like it.
Absolutely. And we get to see the great Blagoy Ivanov again. I mean, like, if that doesn't get you fired up, then maybe it's time to go back and watch the Romanov hype video.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. All right. We'll move on then to the co-main event. We have Damir Ismagulov going against Grant Dawson. We got Ismagulov, 32 years old, 5'10", with a 74-inch reach. Grant Dawson, 29 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach. We have Damir Ismagulov, who is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He had a decision loss to decision loss to Arman Tsarukyan his last time out. But prior to that, he had a decision win against Kudus Rafael Alves, Thiago Moises, and Joel Alvarez. As far as Grant Dawson, he has 4-0-1 draw in his last 5 fights, a decision win against Nad Narimani, a knockout win against Leonardo Santos, a draw against Ricky Glenn, a submission win against Jared Gordon, and then a submission win against Mark Madsen. So, yeah, this is a very interesting fight here. This is it's kind of a narrative fight for me because there's some weird stuff going on with Ismagulov. So I guess the biggest thing here is Ismagulov actually retired in, I think it was like January 1st. He made a post on Instagram talking about how he's retiring, how he's had to like deal with a bunch of injuries. And I'm going to try to pull up the post right now. Yeah, here it is. There it is. All right, so I'll bring it up. I'll put it onto the screen. It's no hype video, nothing like that, but it'll do. So he's saying, unfortunately, due to circumstances and health issues, I have been forced to retire my sports career. Thanks to all those who were by my side, regardless of the results and battles, who were sincerely ill and worried. It's an interesting journey, and a moment that I will always remember, giving everyone a hug. He posted that he was retiring 25 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden, a couple weeks later, he posted that apparently there is one more fight on the contract. So he's going to go out there and he's going to fight out his last fight on his contract. So he went from retiring to this probably being his retirement fight. That kind of terrifies me. And I'm somebody that's always been super high on Damir Ismagulov. I thought this was a guy that was the dark horse in the division. I thought his striking is really good. His takedown defense really good. His grappling is really good. It's a very well-rounded fighter, but I think something's wrong with the guy, man. Me and you were talking about this earlier, Weezy. He has like this weird twitch he's been doing, throughout his entire career, but it's just been getting worse as of late. Like I remember it was bad in the Alves fight, but it was like so bad in the Tsarukyan fight to the point where as soon as the fight started, I saw that Mark Smith was like looking at Ismagulov. He was going like this, like really bad. And then Mark Smith was like all up in his face, like, are you okay? Like this, like what's going on? So I'm not sure what's going on with Ismagulov. And it says that he's only 32 years old. He looks like 40. Like he looks like he's aging a lot. So, but narrative aside, that's all the narrative stuff. Narrative aside, I think Dawson's a very good fighter, a very good wrestler. He moved to ATT a couple fights ago, moving from Glory MMA. He said that he needed better guys to train with all that. And we're seeing improvements. We're seeing improvements with the striking, with the cardio. And it's gonna be a really good fight here. So I don't know. Narrative aside, I think it's an interesting fight where we did just see, Ismagulov taken down, controlled against Tsarukyan. Obviously, I don't think Grant Dawson's Tsarukyan, but I still think Dawson can push Ismagulov against the cage, can take him down. And if Grant Dawson gets you down, I mean, you're not really getting up. If he takes your back, you're definitely not getting up. So although I think Ismagulov's such a great fighter, he's a great striker, he's going to have the striking advantage here. What good does that striking advantage do if you're getting held against the cage and taken down? So I kind of lean Grant Dawson here in this fight. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is a great one. I'm a big fan of Grant Dawson. I love his style, because you always know what you can expect out of him. And as a gambler, you like consistent fighters that are going to fight to their strengths. And Grant Dawson's one of them. Here's what he does in case you've never seen him fight. He goes for the takedown. He'll try to get it on your hips, get a double leg. And the number one goal when his opponent's ass hits the floor is he wants to get to your back. And he's very, very, very good at it. And once he gets there, he gets that body triangle in and he stays there for the rest of the round. So the wrestling's good. The grappling is very good, very offensive. And he just wears on people. He knocked out Leonardo Santos with 1 second left in the third round in a fight that he was probably losing. And he had tried something like 15 takedowns in the first 2 rounds, didn't get any of them. Krause got in his face and said, "You've got to knock this guy out. You knock him out. Stop trying to take him down. You're not going to get him down." What does Grant Dawson go out there and do? Puts him up against the cage, starts trying to take him down. He gets the takedown. He gets the inside trip, gets to a dominant position, starts landing. With about 9 seconds left in the round, Santos goes for a leg lock, and Dawson puts weight on the leg and lands big ground and pound and gets him out of there. But that's one of, and that's the fight, Brady. I kind of feel like that's the fight that has the most parallels to this one. You know, Santos, long, good striker, a little more powerful than Ismagulov, but Ismagulov's a little more technical than Santos. But that's the same kind of opponent. But I don't think Ismagulov's takedown defense is as good as Leonardo Santos's. We saw Arman Tsarukyan get him down several times and get to his back in all 3 rounds. That really worries me because I think Grant Dawson's back takes are better than Tsarukyan's. Now, Tsarukyan's got the better freestyle wrestling. He's probably the guy that can get takedowns in more ways than Grant Dawson can. But Grant Dawson, look at those numbers, dude. 77 takedown attempts for, only 3 against. He's gotten 26 takedowns and only given up 2. 61% control time over an 8-fight sample size that spans over 100 minutes. This guy's got over an hour of control time in the UFC. Think about that. That's nuts. He's winning 87% of the control time positions that he's in. Grant Dawson is a very bad opponent for Damir Ismagulov. And like you mentioned, they're at 2 different places in their career. Grant Dawson got out of glory just in time before the gym imploded and the gambling shit started. So now that he's had 2 fights at ATT, the Jared Gordon win and the Mark Madsen win, the striking is starting to look better, but I don't really think you have to worry about it. If you're like Grant Dawson's striking's not good, look at this number right here, Brady, that 30.14% in the defensive distance striking stats. That's how much time Grant Dawson spends at range. Only 30% of those 100 minutes in the cage. So even if Ismagulov wins 30% of the fight in the stand-up, 70% of the fight's probably taking place in the grappling. And I think we know who the better wrestler and the better control time grappler here is. It's definitely Grant Dawson. And they've got the under 2.5 rounds at plus 180. And I know it's a Damir Ismagulov fight, but his dance partner is Grant Dawson. And Grant Dawson has finished 5 of his 7 UFC wins, and he's finished 89% of his 19 professional wins. And he's been finished in his only loss. And the draw, he came close to getting finished. So plus 180, plus 190 for an under 2.5 rounds in a Grant Dawson fight, especially when Damir Ismagulov might already have both feet out the door. That's a big plus money number, and it's calling me.
Yep, I don't hate it. People are bringing up the cardio of Dawson, which is a good point, but I don't think Damir has the best cardio, especially at this point of his career. Like that Alves fight, believe it or not, Rafael Alves won the 3rd round on all 3 judges' scorecards. Like that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, and don't forget, I mean, if you don't like Dawson's cardio, then why is he getting 3rd round subs against Jared Gordon and Mark Madsen?
Yep, and that late TKO as well.
Yeah, and the late TKO against Leonardo Santos. I mean, you're going to get tired when you attempt 77 takedowns in 8 fights, guys. But that makes your opponent tired too. You know, and that's what Grant does. He's comfortable in that kind of a fight. And even when he gets tired, he usually has more left in the tank in the 3rd round than his opponent. And that's when he usually finds that finish.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting fight. It's a very interesting fight, especially with the narrative stuff as well with Ismagulov. This probably being his last fight, with him apparently dealing with a lot of health issues outside the cage. They had to force him to retire at 20, 31 years old, 32 years old. So interesting stuff.
Absolutely, but a high-level fight. What a co-main event that is.
Yeah, this line is changing quickly. Damir opened up -155, currently -116. Grant Dawson opened up +135, currently -104. So it's about a pick 'em right now. I think it's going to be a very split fight in the community. Is Ismagulov, does he still have enough in the tank to beat Grant Dawson? Has Grant Dawson made enough improvements? Is he getting Damir at the right time here? Can he go out there and beat Damir Ismagulov? Should be a very interesting fight this week. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, you and me both, man. And then this main event's going to be a good one too.
Yep. TNT is asking if Dawson is ranked. I think he might just be like ranked, maybe like 15th, 14th. I think he's maybe just on the rankings or just out.
Yeah, he could be. I mean, the last win against Madsen was a good one, but Madsen wasn't ranked, so I don't know. I'll look.
Let's see here. Let's go to the rankings. Yep, he's ranked 15th.
Yep, there you go. Nice. Yeah, and if he gets this win, that'll just bump him up even further. So Dawson in the right place at the right time. He's still a young man. Grant Dawson is still only 29 years old. So there's a lot of future left here for Grant. Still undefeated in the UFC. Yeah, man, I like Dawson here.
Yep, training at ATT, making improvements, striking, looking good. And oh, by the way, Dawson's training at ATT, where Ismagulov does a lot of work at as well. Yeah. Didn't see Ismagulov at ATT this time around. Looks like he's doing some work in Vegas, but just another thing to think about. All right, main event time. We got Sean Strickland going against Abusupiyan Magomedov. We got Sean Strickland, 32 years old, 6'1" with a 76-inch reach. Magomedov, 32 years old, 6'2". With a 78-inch reach. We have the same age there, Magomedov, with a 1-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Sean Strickland is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Uriah Hall. Decision win against Jack Hermansson. Knockout loss against Alex Pereira. Decision loss against Jared Cannonier. And then a decision win against Nasruddin Imavov. As far as Magomedov, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Dustin Stoltzfus, won by knockout in 19 seconds. Could this be the biggest step up in competition, Weezy, of all time? Maybe. I mean, going from Dustin Stoltzfus, who I think is cut at this point. I mean, good win, but I mean, come on. And then going to Dustin Stoltzfus to Sean Strickland, who's go out there, arguably beat. A lot of people thought he beat Jared Cannonier. He's beat Nasruddin Imavov across 25 minutes, Jack Hermansson across 25 minutes. He's fought, guys like Kamaru Usman. So just a really big step up in competition. When I saw this fight was scheduled for a main event, I was kind of surprised because I would have liked to see Magomedov, I don't know, take a step up, but not this big of a step up. I think he's very good, but what's he going to look like in a 25-minute fight with Sean Strickland, who's just not going to slow down? So interesting main event. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, that's the thing here. I mean, I think Magomedov is going to look really good early here, and he's a very good fighter, Brady. Yep. As is Sean Strickland. Obviously, Strickland, a veteran, a guy that we've seen at the highest level for a long time. But Magomedov's got a 13-year career. He's got 26 professional fights. He's 21-4 with a draw. Average fight time, Brady, for Abusupiyan Magomedov is 5.18 minutes. This guy is dangerous. 13 knockouts, 5 submissions. And you watch the tape on him, and you're like, damn, man, this guy's clean. He's got great size for the division. The grappling is good. He doesn't wrestle much, but when he does, you're like, damn, this dude can wrestle. Like, why doesn't he wrestle more? Is what you're thinking when you see like him mix in the wrestling. I kind of feel like the reason that this fight is happening is because people aren't picking up the phone. And when people aren't picking up the phone, you as a matchmaker has to say who's at the top of the list for names here in the UFC that have no concern for their own safety. Please get Sean Strickland or Chris Curtis on the fucking phone. One of these guys is crazy enough to take this fight. And Sean Strickland was probably Dana White calls him up and then he says, "What's up, pussy?" To Dana. And Dana's like, "All right, we got to fight for you." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't care who it is. Just sign me up, And that's why this fight was made. This guy Magomedov's good, Brady. I picked him for the ass shaving of the week. And not since Clayton Rodriguez finished Shannon Ross with a butt have we seen somebody go out there and shave ass as cleanly as Magomedov did against Stoltzfus. I'm really looking forward to this fight because I think that Magomedov could knock out Sean Strickland early here. I really do. Because we know that Strickland is a volume striker. But as the fight goes on, Strickland's going to get better, and Magomedov, we're going to find out how well tested he is. You know, trying to go 5 rounds against a guy like Strickland with that conditioning, with that durability, with that output and that pressure is a very tall order. So it's a very interesting fight, but Magomedov deserves this, in my opinion. And I think maybe these fights happen a little bit quicker than you'd expect them to, Brady, because you have problems finding fights for guys. Because, you know, if you're not in the top 15, you're not taking an Abusupiyan Magomedov fight. What for? You know, you're probably going to lose it. The guy's good. He's well tested. You know, he's not just in there with bums. You know, he fought Lewis Taylor for $1 million and got caught. You know, he's been up there with some good guys. So it's going to be a good fight. But I just feel as if the longer this fight goes on, the more we're going to see Sean Strickland start to show, I've fought the better brand of competition. I probably have the better competition. My output, the fact that I don't fuck off and I never stop pressuring you, that could break somebody. And I could see maybe if Magomedov doesn't get Strickland out of there early, maybe Strickland gets Magomedov out of there late.
Sorry, I was watching that Romanov hype video. Yeah. No, I agree. I think if Abus wins this fight, I think it's early. That's kind of how I see it playing out. If he wins, it's probably he catches Strickland. But yeah, as the fight goes on, I do expect Strickland to take over and be better on the stretch. Like Strickland showed up in his last fight against Imavov. It was really short notice, that fight. I think it came together late. He came in there on short notice. It was actually up a weight class, and Strickland looked out of shape. And I was kind of surprised to see he went 25 minutes, really no problem. I mean, slowed down a little bit in the 5th, but he looked good. Now Strickland looks in incredible shape from what I've seen. So, yeah, I think it's kind of Abus early. I just don't know if he can keep it with Sean Strickland for 25 minutes. I mean, most can't. Like, even the Cannonier fight, like I said, a lot of people thought Cannonier lost that fight. I thought he won, but maybe I was a little bit biased because I picked him. But it was a close fight regardless. We have Sean Strickland as the favorite. He's currently sitting at like minus 170, and then Abusupiyan Magomedov currently sitting at plus 145. The over-under is kind of interesting. The over-under set at 3.5. So the over 3.5 is minus 125. The under 3.5 is minus 105. In my opinion, like if you like the under, you probably like Abus. If you like the over, you probably like Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland's not really finishing anybody outside of like Brendan Allen or Nordine Taleb. But like you said, maybe Strickland can finish late. So I don't have really a strong lean towards the over-under. I think the line's about right. Nothing's really sticking out to me from a betting perspective. Anything for you?
Not yet. I mean, I've got to go back and watch the Magomedov footage, you know, because I know exactly what Sean's going to do. You know,
yeah,
he's not going to wrestle. He's not going to do anything that would keep him safe. He's just going to keep walking forward and keep jabbing in your face. And it's a difficult style to deal with. Pressure and volume, you know, pressure makes diamonds, and you know, it's something that's a very important part of a good MMA skill set. And Sean Strickland has it in spades. So this is going to be a great test. This is a show me spot for Abusupiyan Magomedov, and we're going to find out if he can pass it, because I think that there's a possibility that he might. This guy is good.
Yeah. Curious to see where like the finish only is for Abus. Maybe it's plus money. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, especially at the current line. That might be a really good look.
Yep. So that's something I'll be looking out for. But yeah, Weezy, we did it. We had over 200 people in here at one point, which is the most we've had in a while. So that's awesome, guys. Thank you for hanging out. Good card this week, but next week's going to be even better. We have UFC 290 pay-per-view that I'll be attending. So make sure you guys tune back in next Sunday. Should be a good show then. But Weezy, any final thoughts for the chat? Any final thoughts at all for this card?
You know, for some reason, Brady, I don't know why, but like our StreamYard didn't have the chat for like 2/3 of the show.
I know. I was trying to fix it. I don't know.
I know. That's why you popped out and popped back in. And yeah. I just now I'm starting to see some comments. It started up again, but I wasn't able to watch the chat for most of the show, so I have no idea what you guys were saying today. But this is going to be a fun card, man. And then there's already some spots sticking out. I'm hoping that I might be able to find some plus money spots and cash more than half of them and have a really good week this week. But we gotta bounce back after last week. Last week was a very, very difficult card filled with landmines, and the fact that we didn't absolutely get served, is a good moving forward point here. And I just got to put in the rest of the work and find the spots here. But I'm really looking forward to this card. It's a fun one.
Yeah, me too. Lots of plus money spots sticking out. So I'm gonna be tagging some plus money. Gonna try to stay away from the chalk this week for the most part, and hopefully it's a good week. Hopefully, no funny business. Like if you told me, Weezy, that the Justin Tafa fight, the Topuria fight, the Brundage fight, and the Peak fight all went the distance, I would have never talked to you again. I would have thought you were crazy.
Yeah, dude. And if you would have put like $100 on fight goes to decision for like the Peak fight, the Topuria fight, and the Brundage fight, I mean, you probably wouldn't have even shown up for the show today. It would have been me solo while you were on a yacht, partying ass, because you would have been able to buy the yacht with the with the odds that you would have gotten on a parlay like that. My word, what a crazy day! But yeah, we're still around to live to talk about it here, and it's an interesting card. So this is a good one. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. So Weezy, any special plans for this week? Any special guest appearances this week? Anything going on?
I'm going to be going on our guy Patrick, Addicted to Combat's channel on Wednesday night to break down the card with him. And then, tomorrow, Probability, Brady. I'm going to be getting the prop template ready tonight so that we're ready for Probability tomorrow. Tuesday night, Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy. I'll break down all 12 of these fights, give you my track bets, finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And I think maybe we might take a week off of Ask Weezy this week because I'll be, discussing the fights on Wednesday night with Patrick. But yeah, other than that, the only order of business left is to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 76. Let's get it.
Let's go. I just posted a main event breakdown on my channel. I have all 12 fights taped, ready to go. Worked my ass off today, and the breakdown should be out at a respectable time tomorrow morning. Going to get up, record the video, and that should be out. Hopefully no more changes. We've had enough changes to this card, so no more. And hopefully all 12 fights stay on. But yeah, should be a solid card. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Leave a like on your way out. Subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. And best of luck for UFC Vegas 76. Talk to you guys later.